Good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's school committee meeting. This is going to be a fairly brief meeting. We have a very short agenda. We really only have one major piece of business to transact. We need to do the superintendent evaluation. We've had a couple of marathon meetings the last 2 times we met, and we weren't able to squeeze this in, so we called this extra meeting to get that done. But we do have one minor thing we're going to do before that. We have an Eagle Scout proposal that we need to talk about and vote on. But before we do that, let's go ahead and do the Pledge of Allegiance. Owen, do you mind leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Sure. I pledge
Allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Excellent, thank you. All right. Let's quickly knock out the consent agenda, minutes from June 11th, 2015, oath to bills and payroll.
Make a motion to accept the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion is made and seconded. Is there any discussion or issues on that? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, none? All right, interested citizens? Anybody want to talk about anything? No. Okay. Okay, new business, Eagle Scout proposal. We have 2 students who want to discuss, well, I think we only have one tonight that want to discuss their Eagle Scout project, and we just need to give approval because it is a project that's going to take place on school grounds. Owen, you want to come up and use the podium right there and just give us a quick rundown on what you are proposing to do for us, for the community of Littleton? When I say us, that's what I'm talking about, not us personally. We don't get anything for doing this.
Hi, I'm Owen Mullen. I'm Troop 20 Littleton. So, and I wanted, for my Eagle Scout project, I would like to restore the batting cages at Whitcomb Field because it's overgrown and I don't know how long it's been there, so I've already had the infield dirt donated by Ed Nowers from WJ Grays in Littleton.
All right.
All right.
How long do you think it's going to take you to, like, when are you going to start and when do you think you're going to be finished?
I'm gonna start over the summer and hopefully by the next youth baseball season.
Excellent, okay. And we recently had that field like kind of redone, right?
Yeah, so it's a combination, that's our major, or not major 70s, that's our Babe Ruth field.
Okay.
The high school uses it occasionally if the high school field is not
Right,
playable.
the middle school team uses it.
The middle school team
and
uses it.
It's in much better shape than it was a few years ago,
Yep,
correct?
we share that field, the outfield is shared with soccer as well, but from a strictly baseball field, it's a very new baseball field, and the field itself is in very good shape.
So this would be a terrific addition in terms of expanding the use of the facility and,
And you know, it's something the baseball board has had our eye on because, you know, we see some value in the cages that are at the high school now.
right.
And sometimes we'll go there. Sometimes those aren't available because there's games going on, so we wouldn't use them there. But having another cage in town for the boys to practice, or the girls, I mean, we could set it up as a pitching place for them to practice pitching, warm up pitching. So we see the board sees the value in seeing if we can rejuvenate that thing.
Excellent.
This is the field in front of Russell Street,
Right.
right?
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
Right, adjacent to the football.
Yeah, and there's the batting cage up along the woods, right?
Yeah, right now, I mean, it's completely full with vegetation
Okay.
and probably.
How long has it been
Permits.
since they've been used?
No one on the current board, and that would include Ed McCarthy, who's probably been around, part of Littleton baseball and youth baseball for a long time, has ever remembered that being used.
I used it when I was a kid,
Okay,
and I used it. I didn't hit any balls because I was terrible at baseball, but I
Yeah.
remember it being.
yeah, and you know, I think at one point, someone had done something so it was usable,
Yeah.
and it was never kept up.
Yeah.
So part of it, from the board's perspective, if we can get it so it's nice, then we'll just make sure it's part of what we do to try and keep the fields nice. And we'll make sure and we'll work with Park and Rec to make sure it stays nice.
Oh, and you're going to go in there and clear all that stuff out of there?
Yeah.
You're not going to go in there without telling somebody first, right? Because I don't want you to get lost in there and like people just wonder whatever happened to Owen. All right, it looks like a jungle in there. There could be like creatures in there, small civilizations. You have to be careful in
You
there.
have people helping you, right?
Yes.
All right. Anybody else have any questions?
Just a general one, and maybe it's more for out here. Have somebody scoped out how's the fences and the other parts of it there?
So a little bit, so I'll defer to
Are you
Bobby and
gonna
Owen.
need fair, and then
Some
how
of
do
it
we
we're
need
not
to
gonna
take
know
care?
until we get it cleared out, and then we'll have to make an adjustment, and I've talked with Owen about that, you know, if need be, the baseball board will look to help out where it needs to be. If once we clear it out, it looks like some of the caging is in rough shape and we'll need to replace some, we'll look to help out for that and see if we can get other donations for that. But, you know, Bobby and Owen were there.
We've taken pictures, and some of the fences curled up, but it's just a simple tie back down.
Yeah, that's why, you know,
Yeah.
I'd seen that, you know, minor repairs like that, but any unanticipated, you know, I didn't know if anybody scoped it out as to whether there's a major problem or
No,
a big.
nothing we can see from
Okay, great.
looking at it.
And then they'll be able to support him if we do run into bigger issues.
Yeah.
All right, anybody else?
I think it's a great project, by the way.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, so
Thank
hearing
you.
no other discussion. Hold on, we're not done yet, hold on, you gotta wait till we officially vote on it, okay? Relax. All right, it is a great project, it sounds like it's gonna have a big impact and a great addition to a facility we've already refurbished, so that's a great choice. And I think you'll, you know, really help us out by doing that. Can I get a motion?
Yeah, motion to approve Owen's Eagle Scout project to renovate and rejuvenate the Whitcomb Field batting cage.
Second.
All right, motion is made and seconded. Any other further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous, all right, good luck, have fun.
Excellent, thank you.
Thank you,
Thanks.
Owen.
All right, thanks, guys.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
You don't have to leave.
Oh, you know what, this seems like.
Yeah, yeah.
It is a good
one.
one.
I've been through mine.
All right, Kelly, you said you had one other piece of new business?
Yes, transportation needs. And we've started this conversation, and it began with the media class being offered at the town office in the fall. And when I went to D-Bus Line and costed it out, it was going to be about 25 grand. So I've been looking at other options and talked to Case, and Case said, well, just add it to your assessment. I said, well, that's fine, but 2 years down the road will be billed, but I kind of need to know what it's going to be. And our matrix kind of changes every year because we're part of a bigger system, part of 42 cities that belong to Case. So I phoned back and I said, I really can't commit until you give me something. So use this year's matrix and figure it out. So this afternoon, they phoned me back and it was 42.6 for the year. So that's not going to work either. But I've been having conversations with Park and Rec off and on for the past 2 months, and they've agreed to turn over their van to us. Now, there's a process that has to take place. They have to relinquish their van back to the town, and then we would obviously be top priority, hopefully, and they would offer it to all the departments. And that would solve some issues for us, because we also have to be concerned about our Tier 4 program at the high school. Those students are going to need work experience, so they're going to have to be placed around the community, so they'll need transportation. And that would have to be funded through some type of alternate source. Some of our athletic teams, depending on the sport, are small enough where we could use the van, so we could save some money there also. So I think it's a great idea. It's a 12-passenger van, so we're within regulatory requirements. We don't need a certified endorsed bus driver, for example, and we can use a van. And I looked at it today, and it's in okay shape. It's going to need new tires and an alignment and an oil change and probably a battery and things like that. But that's really not that much money, and it would, to do this will save us a significant amount of money over time. In terms of driver, we're thinking about when we hire an ed assistant that we would add that to his or her duties. So I'm recommending to the school committee that we pursue this option and see how it unfolds.
All right, anybody have any questions or comments?
So just so I have it all down, the driver would be new staff that we're adding for other reasons, and this would be added to their duties?
Right, or an existing staff member, we give them a bit of a stipend or work
Much
it
less
into their
than
duties.
$25,000.
Well, exactly.
Yeah.
In 2 years, you could have a pretty nice van for $50,000. And I see our system changing as in some areas we're looking at more project-based learning and tying that into the concept of mentorships. So some of our students are going to be more mobile than they've been before, and we're going to have to take that into account. Now, a lot of them will be juniors and seniors, they'll have their own transportation, but you never know. We may end up in situations where we need to provide some transportation.
I think it really gives us a lot of flexibility that we didn't have before, and that most districts of our size don't really have, or of any size. Just
True.
Usually you see these big buses, which are great for transporting lots of students, but not for just a handful. I just want to make sure that when we do go through that process of determining which employee is going to be driving the bus, that we check out and make sure that their driving record is not
Well, we'll do all that.
egregious.
Yeah, you bet. We'll make sure, and we have to deal with town insurance and make sure that, you know, we have all the paperwork done. And we'll go from there. There may be multiple drivers. I know Mike Lynn is really excited about the possibility of having a van to use. So I think it's a good investment for the school district, certainly more than cost effective at this point in time. And for Park and Rec, the advantage is it's there if they want to use it. Every now and again, they have a track and field season that's 6 weeks long, and they may need to use it then. So it's not as if we'll be hoarding it ourselves, but we can certainly lend it back to them when they need it.
So
Sorry, no, go ahead.
will it be the school department's van that we then share, or will it be the town's van that the town shares, but given our needs and our schedule?
It will be ours.
Okay.
It'll be the school
it'll
department
be the school-
property.
Okay.
Oh, so where are we, so we're looking to purchase this van?
Well, not really
Or
purchase.
just
It'll
take-
be.
Transfer it
We'll
over.
Take
transfer
title-
it over to us.
take title of it, yeah.
Right.
Okay, I didn't realize that. I thought they were conveying it to the town and we were just it was gonna be town's general use.
Well, no, it's part of their
Part of the process
policy.
of getting it to us,
Right,
yes.
right.
Okay.
They can't just, we can't have a transaction just between Park and Rec and ourselves.
Right.
It has to go
Yep,
through
no,
policy
okay.
first.
But so we would be taking ownership of it, I didn't realize
Right.
that. Okay. Would this help at all with the problem with UMass Lowell that we talked about before?
Potentially.
Yeah.
You bet.
Especially if a lot of those students are on the higher grades already. It's only seats 12 passengers, but if half of them are seniors who have their own means of transportation, that can be a make or break.
That's true. I mean, we have other activities going on where we have a few students moving on in a competition, for example, and we could use the van to transport them to the various locations. I see this as creating greater efficiency rather than pulling a bus in for 4 kids. I mean, you always have to remember that you're paying that bus driver to drive there and then wait and then drive back, so it's just not as efficient. And it certainly isn't a tactic or a measure to encourage staff or coaches to start driving. I mean, that's not the intent. It's if it's there if it will suit the purpose. And if a coach is uncomfortable driving 4 kids, that's fine. I mean, that's their prerogative. You know, coach is coach. They don't.
So
they're not drivers.
we've got the insurance stuff laid away because,
We will.
yeah.
I mean, that's not hard to do. I've done this many times
Yeah,
before,
right,
and,
yeah.
and granted, it's been regional districts, one municipal. But we'll run it by our lawyer as well, make sure that we have everything done, so that we're all set.
So that we're not paying anything for the van?
No, it
Just made up whatever.
because it's already town
Town
property.
yeah.
It's a matter of them
It seems pretty generous.
letting them know that the town know that they don't need it anymore, and then that creates the process. So the Park and Rec Board will have to take an official vote to give the van back to the town, and then we can proceed from
Seems
there.
like a pretty sweet deal.
Nice deal. What color is it?
Great.
Kirby's gonna paint it blue and gold.
Yeah.
We'll have to remove
Kirby,
some
can you hear us over there?
decals.
Can we call it a victory van or something like that?
Victory van.
No, I mean, Neshoba Tech has been doing this type of thing when I was on their piece there, but they got snagged by the 17-passenger van, the reg that went outlawed the 15-passenger one. So they ended up buying the small buses, which could still be driven with a regular driver's license for, there's a size there, that like the kind you get at like rental car companies that
Right.
bring you out to the thing
Right.
there. They don't need a bus driver class license to do that there. But
It seems like we could save a lot of money doing this.
What's that?
It seems like we could save a lot of money doing
Well,
this.
there's right off the bat, 25,000,
Right.
plus the
Plus whatever else
other
we-
areas that I've been talking about.
I think, Alex hit the point, to create flexibility allows us the opportunity to do things that we maybe otherwise would hesitate or even not do,
Right.
because transportation would be kind of a deal breaker.
True.
So, even if we don't understand exactly how much benefit we're gonna get out of it, we have an immediate payoff, which is great, but obviously I think, in a judicious basis, we'll be able to take more advantage of it as we go. So that's fine. Do you need a vote on this, or do you just need us to?
I would prefer a vote just for direction, so that,
All right.
we're all on the same wavelength.
Make a motion for the superintendent to continue the discussions about acquiring the Park and Rec van.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. All right, now we're going to get down to the real business of why we're here this evening, which is to go through the superintendent evaluation. This is, kind of a big deal. This is one of the 3 statutory responsibilities that we have. First being the budget, second being policy, and third is hiring and evaluating the superintendent. Daryl, you've been good enough the past several years to kind of spearhead the process, so why don't you go ahead and let us know, let the audience know how we went about it, and then we can start a discussion.
So the process this year is the same that we used last year. We took the superintendent prepared a package of documentation and a personal summary evaluation of his activities and accomplishments over the year, and then produced a I call it a documentation package, evidence package of things to demonstrate the accomplishments there. Each member of the school committee filled out the evaluation form. I collected all of the inputs and compiled a composite summary evaluation, which will serve as the official evaluation of the superintendent there. There was some variation in some of the individual scores, and in those cases, I used what the majority of the scores led to the final ranking. If there was an even split between them, I deferred them for discussion tonight here. So that was the basic process here. So each member has a copy of the summary evaluation and their own personal one to provide any specific feedback for the superintendent. And I think what we did last year is we went through the board and didn't go item by item but had each member speak about the pertinent points in leading up to their overall evaluation score. And I think that process worked for you.
It's fine with me. Do you guys have any other suggestions or points you want to make, or you just want to go and follow that? Okay.
So just a question about the professional practice goal and the student learning goal. Is that an area where?
That was where the scores are a little too split for me to
We'll
make a
discuss
clear
that.
thing, so I think we'll take maybe after, what I'd suggest is we go through the other 4 pieces there, so that, I don't think we had much variation in the scores there, and then maybe just talk about professional practice and student learning, and see if we come to consensus on the rating for that area.
All right. Alex, you want to go ahead and start off on that end of the table?
Sure. Do you want to go through each standard, or?
I would say,
Why don't we just limit it to our,
to summarize it to the, if there's some specific pertinent point that you want to bring forward.
About a particular
thing, but maybe just concentrate on sort of the overall summary of the pieces there.
Sure.
And then the other part, just for the record here, I took everybody's narratives and tried to compose them into one coherent narrative, plus or minus my editing ability there. I
Plus your editing ability.
and tried to pick up the major points. I didn't necessarily pick up everybody's words exactly, but I think because there was some duplication in the thing there, so I tried to catch the themes of what people were talking about. Yeah.
Well, thank you, Daryl, for all this hard work again. And I do think you did a good job capturing, I know a lot of, essentially everything that I was trying to say was included here. And I'm sure that others feel that their thoughts were included as well in terms of the summary document, so thank you for that. I think Kelly is a highly effective leader, and he has done a lot of great work, whether it's helping us as a school board learn more about what's going on educationally, to managing a budget season that was not easy. by any means. So I applaud Kelly for all of his great work there. I'm excited to see what the next year brings, because time and time again, in the situation we're in as a school district, we have to think creatively and we have to think out of the box and stretch, not stretch the rules, but stretch the norms. And Kelly does that time and time again, whether it's acquiring a 12-passenger van or making a budget work that doesn't always look like it's going to work. And that's part of his dedication to taking feedback, not just from us, but from his administrative team and from others in the district. I think that's pretty excellent. But what I really want to commend you for specifically is a professional culture, because I think we've seen a lot of positive growth in this area over the past couple of years under your leadership, and of course with the administrative team as well. But the way that you've handled differences of opinion doesn't take away from someone in the school community's feelings being on the same team. And that's very important, that we can agree to disagree without being disagreeable. And I think particularly for the faculty and the administrators, that's so key, because we're all in it to try to help every child as best we can. So whether that's the professional development and the changes we've made over the past couple of years to allow teachers to pursue more PD options outside what would otherwise be possible, to the way we handle disputes, the way we handle compromises and conversations in the school district. As a school family, I think is really important. So I want to thank you for fostering that kind of culture.
Thank you. Guess I'm next.
Go ahead.
Does anyone object to that? Yeah, this is the first time that I've been involved with the superintendent evaluation, and I did find, as Daryl can attest, the document very confusing, but I think I understand it now, after Daryl probably did, clean it up for me. But it's important to do. I think arguably the most important thing that a school board can do is, we have the fiduciary duty to the board and to the town, and probably the most important one of those duties is overseeing the chief executive, in this case you. And so that's, definitely something that we have to take seriously. Fortunately, I think you make it easy for us to do, and I think we're probably lucky for that. And it was clear, I didn't even need to read. It was clear going into it, before even reading your self-evaluation, that I was confident with the work you were doing, and I think everyone else was as well. It really comes through not just in these meetings, but just in town and all the accolades and things that the town has perceived. So in my going through the little template that we're given, I was confident giving exemplary ratings on all of the standards except for 2, in which I gave proficient, and the only reason for doing that was not because I don't think that it wouldn't reach the level of exemplary, but they were items where, having been on the school committee less than a year, I didn't feel like there was enough evidence in the self-evaluation. I didn't have the first-hand knowledge to give, to step up to that second level, but I'm sure that in the next couple months I'll feel as though exemplary is the right standard there. A couple of things that I wanted to point out specifically were in the 3rd standard, I believe it was, maybe it was the 4th standard. Yeah, the 2nd standard. This one, I really felt like it shined through really in the meetings and stuff, how great your work here in leading the district, but also the principals and everyone else who's involved. For people who watch the meetings, one of the things that come up is the YRBS reports. And it's clear, being on the school committee, we see each of the school improvement plans, and you can see items. I mean, it's a really important report because it's really getting to the level. It's probably the one survey that really asks students about really important issues, and then it's directly reflected in those school improvement plans. So I was really impressed that you and your team were able to take some of the feedback that came through the data there and actually implement those things in the school improvement plan. And for people in the town, that's really important to be able to see that these surveys and, you know, this data is not being gathered just for the sake of being gathered, but it's actually influencing the policy in the schools, and so I was impressed by that. Another thing that I just commend is, obviously, the school department has by far the biggest budget of any department in the town, and so given that we're, you know, the stewards of that amount of money, I think that you do a really great job of comforting us in knowing that the money's being handled well. You know, I've never seen a board that has as detailed and regular updates about the budget. And the thing that's important is it's not just a snapshot saying that everything's okay. When there have been inconsistencies or problems, you've been very transparent with explaining why those problems exist and if it's something that we should be concerned about, or whether it's something that, you know, because the way budgeting works, it ends up looking more of a problem than it really is. And so again, as far as, like, you know, fulfilling our fiduciary duties, having you know, a CEO like you who's as willing to put those numbers forward and explain away is good for us. So overall, I think I'm honored to work with you. I think you do a great job. I'm looking forward to the next year moving forward.
Thank you.
So first of all, I like to start with is, you know, I liked your self-assessment. I thought it was very reflective of, you know, your accomplishments and areas that you've been working over the past year. And following that, and then through the evidence and then my own observations, I concur with your self-assessment, which is actually a very good position to be in there, where I really appreciate you being reflective of how you're contributing to the community and the school district and your own assessment of that, and it matches pretty much what, you know, we see here, which I think is actually in one of the ways exemplary there, because I've worked with a lot of people who are not very self-reflective.
The unexamined life is not worth leading.
Well, you know, and when you have to talk to them about something that's not going right and they're totally caught by surprise that and I don't find us in that position. I find it very, you know, yourself very reflective on it. So when we hit standards 1 and 2, leadership and management and operations, you know, I think the way you've linked the district strategic plan through the budgeting, and then through the the school improvement plans throughout the district, there is driving us down a path that it makes it much easier for us to see where we're going and how we're making progress along that. And I think, you know, your leadership in the last 2 years moving us in that direction have been very effective on it. You know, and then the final comment would be on professional culture. Again, emphasizing, you know, leadership through practice, your own practices, and then as that flows down through the staff, reinforces, you know, the commitment towards self-advancement and the commitment towards the students and advancing their learning, and the support and changes that we've seen from the teacher support of the various teaching initiatives and educational initiatives, I think, again, is through your leadership there. And I wanted to just note those particular points.
Thank you.
You know, as I went through and filled this out, and was primarily what struck me when I started kind of free-forming my comments was one thing to check off the boxes, but when I started writing, you know, some comments, and I was going through it, I realized that there were certain themes that were recurring back to me as I put those comments down, regardless of what standard I was evaluating. And in thinking about it, I realized the superintendent has a very broad job scope. And I thought about it in 3 different categories. One is the day-to-day management of the district, the nuts and bolts, implementing the budget and taking care of the business that goes on each day in the different buildings. The second is the vision, is moving us, having an eye on the horizon and moving the district forward in terms of developing new developments in curriculum or pedagogy or emerging practices, technology, all those types of things. And then the third thing is, you know, getting the message out to the community and being a champion of Littleton and helping all of Littleton understand how well the schools are doing and how important the schools are to the overall health and climate of Littleton in a myriad of ways, you know, socially and not least of all economically. And what I was struck with is how well a balance you strike in all of those roles. You know, somebody else might be really good at being a cheerleader or really good at making sure that, you know, all the i's are dotted and the t's are crossed every day and everything, the bottom line hits the right way, and, you know, we're not getting phone calls from irate parents because the bus didn't get to the right place at the right time or things like that. Or you just get caught up in all the wonderful things we're going to do in 10 years that we forget about all the stuff we got to do today. And it can be hard to strike that balance. But what I realized as I was filling this document out was you're doing an excellent job of striking that balance, and you're covering all those bases very, very well. Nothing is being shortchanged. And as a matter of fact, I would argue that, you know, I think some of the things that we've heard this year about the way other people view our school system, and this has been a story that's been told over the last several years, we are ascendant. And you know, Alex alluded to, and that's during difficult budget times. And we've talked in here about, you know, we've had an educator evaluator model put through and other mandates that have come through, and we talk about how the teaching profession has changed dramatically over the last 6 or 7 years, more so than in 25 years prior to that combined. So it's not like it's easy to do. It's a very challenging environment, but you're striking a great balance. I appreciate that. It's evident when we do this type of exercise, and hopefully we don't take it for granted, you know, when we're not doing this type of exercise. I don't think we do. But it's just something to keep in mind. I think the district is in a really great place. Your leadership is a crucial aspect of that. And not just your own personal leadership, but Mike talked about it, the admin team has bought into, you know, what you're selling. And, you know, we've benefited from that as a school district. So I'm very happy. I think you saw that in the scores that I cited. And I hope, you know, as Mike said, I feel very good about where we are. And as long as, you know, you keep helming it the way you are, I think we're going to be doing just fine. So I'm very happy with all of that.
Can I follow up real quick? So I guess I hope I didn't get too caught up in like the technical part of this, but just what Mike said, sort of like big picture about what you do. It is, like, I wonder if enough people know exactly what the role of the superintendent is, because you come here and, you know, we've got the whole admin team running each school, and I almost think that's a good thing. Like like you do such a good job doing each one of these 3 things. It's nobody really, you know, there's no cause for concern where people would say, you know, what is that superintendent doing? And so the fact, you know, the kind of the no news is good news expression is really good to know that there's no red flags with people being concerned about what you're doing, because you're doing each of those 3 things that Mike described so well. And so that is pretty impressive to see that you're able to see the forest through the trees, but then also when something comes up, you know, even individual faculty members will give a presentation at one of our meetings, and you happen to know intricate details of that specific thing. So there's nothing lost in, you know, going across those 3 different tasks that Mike described. So
You just reminded me of something. You don't mind if I?
No, go ahead.
So, I think it was at the MASC conference, and somebody brought up one of these comments about what does a superintendent do? And then one of them answered is they're responsible for curriculum, making sure curriculum's developed, execution in the classroom. And then somebody from a city said, the only time their superintendent shows up in a classroom is with a horde of reporters to take a photo op.
Right, exactly.
That's not the case here. I mean, and as evidenced by even, you know, as, you know, the teachers not being afraid when the superintendent comes into their classroom for, you know, either as part of just this, you know, informal evaluation process to just seeing how the classrooms are executing. In fact, actually being accepted into the classroom there, which, you know, like I said, I just compare the comment of from some of these other, you know, much larger districts there to what's a hands-on superintendent
It's not just
really
a ceremonial picture. Although he does take plenty of photo ops, as if anyone follows his Twitter feed. But he's not missing out on
Yeah, but it's not a horde of reporters following.
For lack of reporters, I'm sure, not the.
Oh, wait, let's look out.
I went up to drop this off on the last day of school, and I figured, I'll just drop in, I'll drop it off, we'll have a quick talk about it, and the guy wasn't there. And I'm like, Dorothy, where's Kelly? Oh, he's out in the buildings.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, well, he's out in the buildings,
Good
last day of
good
school, what a
excuse.
good idea, you
Right.
know, so he's running around the last day, just, you know, making sure everybody's all set on the last day. So I think that was, to me, I laughed, I thought that's reflective of, like, that's exactly where I wanted to be. I'm glad he's not here.
Right.
And maybe in hindsight, I would have been disappointed if you were on the last day of school, so yeah.
The last thing I would say is that I don't want it to sound like it's just like a Kelly parade over here. And I think all of us would probably agree that if there were, you know, if there were major concerns, it's not like we would be hesitant to bring them up.
Right.
So
I think
we're comfortable, yeah.
Right, Darryl reflected that when he said that, you know, the self-evaluation was there, we all looked at it. and it wasn't a Kelly parade. There's plenty of room for where we're focused on ideas and, you know, room for improvement. And we talk about that, whether it's school improvement plans or curriculum updates. No matter how well we're doing, nobody's, you know, satisfied. We're always going to look to move forward. And again, that's a reflection of, if that's happening from the top, then it's much more likely that it'll happen at the bottom as well. So that helps. And as Daryl said too, it would be much more difficult to bring something up if it wasn't already being thought
Exactly.
about by the superintendent. And that's really never been, I've never found that to be the case, and I don't ever really expect it to be, so that's great.
Thank you.
All right, what do we need to do? Do we need to clean up those,
So the one I'd like to the two areas I'd like to just talk a little bit, and I'll start with it's goal 2, but it's listed first, professional practice here. I'm not sure how the forms got out of alignment here, which is under professional practice, the goal is implementation of the Vision 2020 plan. And, you know, what I'll do is I'll just talk about me specifically here. I rated that one as exceeded there, based on the, not only, you know, drafting the original green print, I think is the phrase that you use there, but we've seen the updates to it, we've seen the actualization of it throughout in terms of the school improvement plans, and then also in terms of the budgeting process and the other pieces there. So I rated it as exceeded because I see that is fully implemented there, even though it's an ongoing execution of that goal and plan on it. So that was my perspective of my rating for exceeded on that. And I guess maybe if we just sort of pulse the rest of the committee on where they view that one fit, we can try to see if there's just a definitional issue of where we are on the scale to major disagreement in terms of.
can you just give me on what page we're talking about?
First page.
First page, okay, sorry, all right.
The two that are blank.
Oh, right there, okay,
Yep.
sorry.
Which are described on page.
Gotcha,
Yeah,
all
they're
right.
described on page 3.
Repetitive
Gotcha,
for some
okay.
reason.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was what tripped me out.
Yeah,
Okay, sorry, so we're talking
Yeah.
about number 2, implementation of Vision 2020.
right, which is
Gotcha.
the professional practice, not, yeah.
Gotcha, I'm on it, all right,
Yeah.
good, okay. All right, Alex, you want to chime in on that?
Sure. So I said for goal 2, that I thought the goal was met. I think Kelly's doing a good job in terms of implementing the Vision 2020 plan. I think I've heard from the community that they're not fully aware of what's going on, which doesn't mean that we're not implementing the Vision 2020 plan, but that there could be, as always, room for improvement. I don't think it's a major issue, otherwise I wouldn't have said we're meeting the goal. I'd have said significant progress or some progress. I think we meet the goal. I'm just a little cautious of using the word exceeded at this stage, but that might just be my personal opinion.
Mike?
Yeah, I didn't have strong feelings on either of these two goals. Primarily, the Vision 2020 is just not something I felt like I had enough knowledge of it as a whole in order to say whether or not I'll be honest, this is one of the ones where I felt like I didn't have enough evidence in Kelly's self-evaluation, nor did I have enough firsthand knowledge to have really a passionate opinion on this one. And so I sort of relied on what I saw in both these two goals in Kelly's self-evaluation. He had some self-reflection of improvement to be made, so I definitely didn't feel like met or exceeded was appropriate, just because I felt like there was, you gave enough constructive reasoning why we still had more room to improve there. So yeah, I guess that's what I'll say for the first one for now. And I don't have a super strong opinion on either one.
My thoughts jive a little bit more closely with Daryl's in the sense that, to me, the verb implementation didn't mean that we were done or completed, that it was more of a process that was ongoing. And I feel like the process is ongoing and there is significant achievement towards getting there. The other thing that I always think about this one is it's not as if Kelly can do this on his own. I mean, this is something that is district-wide. So I'm not going to necessarily hold him wholly accountable to whether or not we totally get there. I'm more interested in holding him accountable to the process of going through striving towards getting there. So I felt like, as Daryl sort of intimated, was that, you know, we know where we're going, we know we might have issues about exactly what needs to get done and some room for improvement, but it's clear that the process is ongoing, and I think that we have our arms well around it as a district in terms of where we are, you know, where we want to get to and how we're going to get there. So in that term, I think he did fine, and more, you know, and then I put the highest rating on it, knowing full well that there's still plenty more to be done, and in some ways, you'll never really finish that one altogether. We'll just kind of go to a different vision and keep moving forward on that.
So if I don't mind just chiming in on one thing you said there, it's not just laying out the plan and it's being executed. He's an active participant
Right.
in both the
Sure.
execution.
Yep.
You know, it's not, I made this plan and now my staff to go off.
Oh,
and do it,
absolutely, correct. Oh,
kind
yeah,
of
he's
thing.
still intimately involved.
You know,
Right.
I just want to bring that point
Yes,
forward
absolutely.
in your description.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make one comment if it affects your scoring. So, as you can tell, the directions tell us to complete page 3 first, which I did, and because it's reversed on the front page, my scores are reversed. So if that affects your
Well-
unanimity of this, then these should be reversed if that affects
So
it or not.
if I get it right at this point, I have it rated as exceeded, Mike has it rated as exceeded,
Yeah.
Alex has it rated as met, and your rating was,
Some progress on that one. And it's because of I've said it before, it's just because I don't have enough, I just can't in good conscience rate higher than that, not knowing enough about the,
Which I
what we
think,
implemented.
which I think speaks to my only concern about the Vision 2020 plan, which I think in the district, of the teachers, of the administrators, they are fully engaged, they know what it is, they talk about it, they're excited about it, they have feelings and emotions and thoughts about it. And again, my concern was that outside of the school district, outside of when we can hold a staff attentive or an administrative team attentive, we're not necessarily doing as much communication about those efforts. And I think we've spent a lot of time on that, not this past year, but the year prior, when we were first doing this work. And that was before Mike joined us. So I think the fact that even Mike is less aware of what's happening with it speaks to my only real concern, which is just, you know, as so often happens, we are doing great things, and sometimes not everyone gets the message. And I think that'll happen on every single thing you do, no matter how hard you try. On this thing, I think there's more room for improvement on that, which of course, with this particular objective, getting that community buy-in is so important. Whereas if it's something smaller, like a PD goal or implementing the EdEval, that internal school buy-in is vital, and what, you know, you want the whole community to know, but it's less important, I think, than with a strategic plan like this one.
I can help out a little bit. I've been strategic planning since 1988. And when I look back over the history of strategic planning, a lot of great things on paper, but very little influence on what happens in districts. In fact, most of the time, your leadership team is the only one that really understands the strategic plan.
Right.
And they understand it during the last month of June, because that's when they're writing their summative reports on their accomplishments. And that's always bothered me, because when I look at the districts I've worked with, we've spent hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars on the process to engage communities, to engage staff. And the documents were good, but words by themselves don't bring about change. And so the last 2 districts I've been in, and it's actually 3 because I ended up regionalizing one and had to redo another strategic plan. What we've done differently is focus on who the change agents are with community input. But the first stage of success, in my opinion, in a strategic plan is making sure that the people in the trenches understand it, feel like they're part of it, and your leadership team also embraces it. Because in reality, the only way that a strategic plan will be transformational within a district is if those stakeholders are pushing the train forward. And the secondary piece is more PR. And you have to be cautious, because you don't want to be doing too much PR until you know everybody's on the same track. And it's only been 18 months since the inception of this plan. So I understand where you're coming from, and in my reflection, you could tell, you didn't have to read between the lines, that we need to somehow get the message out and be more repetitive in our conversations, which is really difficult at times because we're always moving forward. We talk about what we're doing, and then our jobs are just very busy, and we're on to the next task. But we have to always remember that the story needs to be repeated, and in this case, repeated many times. And we need to all become better at that. The strategic plan isn't the superintendent plan. I always laugh because when you go to a superintendent's interview, they always ask you, what's your vision? What would you do to create a strategic plan? Well, it's pretty easy to answer. Creation and being successful are two very different things. They're very different processes. So this is the first time this district has ever had everything totally aligned. So it's working from within the structure, and people are beginning to understand it more and more. But it's so complex, and we have to continue to figure out ways. How do we tease out this complexity into sound bites that are easy and easy to remember? There's something we do the slideshow every year. I still have people commenting on that slideshow I sent out 2 days ago, and we viewed it a number of times at the school committee level, and it was on LCTV, and that was just a reinforcement to me that one thing all districts have to become better at is understanding that repetition is good, and it doesn't mean that you're not being creative and not moving forward, but we have to remember we need to slow down at times. So I hear what Alex is saying, and Mike, in all honesty, for you just joining the school committee, I think you've done a tremendous job trying to get up to speed. I mean, the school district is far more complex than people realize. And there's a lot of stuff, and my job as a superintendent is to help you move ahead, but not drown you in information so that you don't want to be a school committee member anymore, or you feel that you have an imbalance in your work life or your personal life and being a school committee member. So it is tricky, and this one I'm really confident that we are moving in the right direction. We still, and we've talked about this before, and it'll be part of our summer retreat, we really need to come together and see how we want to continue reporting that component. How do we report our successes? How do we do it with the current staffing level that we have, so that we're not putting them in a further disbalance, and still make sure they have time to lead and move ahead. At the same time, have a powerful message that's understandable. I mean, MCAS reports, I think we've done a good job of teasing out the complexity of that so that people do understand it, and people aren't falling asleep when we're doing our presentations, because there's just so much information. So, it's something I think is a continual work. School committee, as you know, you own that plan as well, and part of the communication plan has to be your stewardship in that area, and that will come along with time as you begin to understand more of what's happening. You look at the number of classes we have a day, and we're not a huge district. So to really begin to understand and get a pulse takes time. So I appreciate what you're saying, and I think I know we're on the right track. Just a matter of making sure that as we tweak our process, that we're ready to move in that diverse direction. Strategic plans can tank very quickly if they don't have the right leadership, because everybody's busy, and before you know it, you pull it off yourself and blow dust off it. That's not worth having. If you're not living it, then you have to ask yourself, why are we doing it? So that's more of my philosophy in that area. I hope that helps.
Well, I just want to say that I can't stress enough that this, when I rank this, it's what is my perception based on the evidence that you provided, and so there's nothing, there's nothing to give me concern. There's just, I just want to be clear that there's nothing here that's concerning to me, just that I can't say what the progress is. It's just a learning curve thing where I just haven't been around long enough to be able to see what that progress is. I don't think that means anything drastic needs to change, because I think it's just something that comes with time. Normally somebody would be on the school committee for a full year before this time comes around. I'm almost there, but not quite. So I don't want it to seem like there's something that I saw in here concerning, because that's definitely not.
But I'm not taking it that way at all, so. no, it's-
And I want to echo that sentiment. When I was picking which box to strike here, I was looking at the definitions on the first page, which don't perfectly align with what's on the second page, but for the entire evaluation, I was looking at proficient as defined as fully satisfactory. So when I say proficient instead of exemplary or met instead of exceeded, I don't mean that in any way to say we're not doing our job. I take exemplary to mean practice significantly exceeds proficient and could serve as a model of practice regionally or statewide. And I think that overall, as reflected in the entire evaluation, in my entire evaluation, and on most of the standards, that is absolutely the case. That you are significantly exceeding expectations, exceeding proficiency, and modeling practices that could be modeled regionally or statewide, or even nationally in some cases. So I want to use that sparingly because it's earned. And so I don't want exemplary to be the default, even though I've hit exemplary more than not in this case.
That makes sense. And I'm not, as a school committee, you need to know that I'm not sold that it needs to be an exemplary. I actually disagree with the scale that they've created for goals. I think, what does exemplary mean when you're setting a professional goal? The whole process is designed to meet the goal. And if you go beyond the goal, is that the same goal? Or is it, I could talk in riddles all night on this. So just so you know, I'm not going to, if you gave me a Met standards, I'm not going to go here or leave here and be upset. Because I would have designed this whole form differently, to be honest with you, and I think I've done 10 myself in my career, so.
I thought that when I was going through this, that I personally thought that there could have been more constructive ways of doing this, but
They don't even define.
I was left with what I had. I think it's defined in the explanation that was sent to us.
Did not meet versus exceed,
Yeah.
because I saw these definitions. I don't
Yeah,
know
there's
those.
in that separate document, I think they were in there, but.
Speaking of the separate documents, I thoroughly enjoyed the 250-odd pages of evidence, which I say only a little bit tongue-in-cheek because I think that was very valuable, but I also imagine it took some.
Don't say that too loud, because
Poorly.
I have to be setting an example. Teachers are only putting in one piece of evidence, so, but it's a little different, because our principals see their staff every day,
Right.
whereas, we see each other informally, but we formally meet twice a month, so you
And we're not in the
have to
building.
design it
Yeah.
differently,
Yeah.
exactly,
Yeah.
so.
We only see one aspect of your job most of the
Exactly.
time.
So do we need to hammer down a specific?
We need to figure out which box we want to check, and I'll defer to the chair to sort of make a recommendation on the composite.
Right. I mean, based on the conversation that we've had, and I appreciate the comment that you just made, I think it's easy enough to just check off Met on that one. And then I'd like to have another discussion on the student learning goals, because depending on what we have, I might be might have a different point of view on that one. So I'm fine with Met, it's sort of, if you think of these as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you added them up, it's 16 divided by 4 is a 4, which is Met. I'm not suggesting that's the ideal way to look at it, but.
We all have spreadsheets.
Exactly, but in this instance, and given the point of view I think that we all expressed, I'm fine with going with Met, that pushing what I put down a box, is that okay with you?
Yeah.
And then, Alex, that hits your box right on the nose.
I
I
can
think you
drag
have a
along.
little caveat,
Yeah,
that,
mine-
you're sort of,
I totally
some of your
agree.
evaluation was just based on not enough information on hand, so, is that all right?
It sounds
Works
like
for me.
that is sort of where our
Yeah.
evaluations meet.
Yeah.
Thanks, Darrell. I'm glad you appreciated that.
Oh, I just checked. the
You
wrong
checked out
box.
the wrong one.
Yep, I did the same thing.
How does it feel?
Wrong box on me.
All right.
Goodness.
All right, so we're fine on that one. So now let's talk about the student learning goals a little bit. And Darryl, you want to kick that one off?
Yeah, I can make sure I turn to the right page this time. Here, so student learning goals. I think I scored that as exceeded here, and again, it's from the redefinition of the processes and how it's flowing down through the district, the incorporation of the data, better use of the data, better reflection on how we're doing testing and assessment for the students, restructuring the assessment so that they're more timely based, so that they're more able to actually be used during the course of the year for informing student instruction there, so that there's actual value to the student now of doing the test and not just to the state to get composite scores from the district there. So you know, in terms of how well that process has been integrated down and through the system, you know, while we don't have the scores out from 2 years of data yet, the way we're structuring it is designed to get us towards exactly where we need to be going with it there. And I don't see any, you know, the proof will be in the pudding in terms of the effectiveness of the plan, but in terms of laying it out, getting it executed, and getting it underway so the district is moving in the right direction, these are models that other districts could be following.
Okay.
If I, with this goal, I feel like this is incredibly well done. But for the words that we were given to choose from, some did not meet some progress, significant progress. If this was a scale, like Mike said a second ago, that was 1 to 5, I would have ranked a 4, because I thought that this was done exemplary. I had no concern with this whatsoever, and the only reason why I would have given it 1 notch below is because of your language that suggested that you yourself had some ideas for how this could move forward even in another year of implementation. But this is one area where I think we've probably talked the most about since I've been on the school committee, and it's clear that it's been a very thoughtful approach. When Jerry Lynn comes in and she talks about it, it's clear that it's a very deliberate process we've taken, and people seem to be satisfied with it. And like Darrell said, it's really instructive for the district as a whole and us as a goal to have here, because this is really tangible data. It's not something that's being done as an exercise in futility that goes on and we never see it again, but there's actual real value to doing this. So again, I put significant progress because I was reading these words literally, which is met and exceeded, and if the superintendent in his own self-evaluation thought that there was some value to doing a 3rd year and meeting this, that's the only reason why I said that there was significant progress. When I read that significant progress, but there's maybe a little, so I hope that I'm almost regretting not, I wish that we could just have a scale 1 through 5 with a different scale, because I'm worried that maybe I hope that I didn't underfund you with that one.
Oh, I mean, some of the language I used shot me in the foot, and that was deliberate because.
But I wouldn't say shot you in the foot, because
No.
it's a goal where, like you said before, if you just mean the goal for the sake of meeting the goal, you probably did that with the 2 years. But if the goal is, can be massaged a little bit into a 3rd year, and that would, satisfy better, then I think that's actually a good thing. So again, this is one of the ones where I know I interrupted you, but I feel like I have to preface by saying there's no cause for concern here. In fact, I would be happy to rank it a 4.5 or 5 if the scale was different. So if I should throw this thing away, I'm conveying to you both and to Alex that I am above significant progress and being happy with it.
I mean, one of the things I was looking at these goals is I have to ask myself, in a leadership capacity, if I assume these goals are implemented and they don't need the same amount of attention, are they still going to create the results that I expect as a superintendent? And from my own experience as a leader, these are pretty big items. They're big ticket items, and they warrant more attention, not because more things need to be done. I think they both warrant more attention because it needs to be very clear to the district that these are still priorities, and they are interwoven into our culture, but they're not cemented into our culture. And that's why I wrote the way I did. It's just from experience. If I was naive, then I would be foolish enough to think that the culture was there and it's going to last forever. But I know better than that. So it still needs that direction and opportunity for people to realize that these goals are still very, very important in order to accomplish our vision. so.
And I wish there was a way for us to reflect how important it is that you actually did include that language, because it just showed, it wouldn't have been a helpful exercise if if the whole document was, there's nothing better we could do. This was one where it was genuine feedback that was constructive, and so even if it had been a footnote at the end saying, having said all this, there's one thing I could change, or would be to consider doing a third year, then I'm sure that you exceeded that goal.
Alex?
I again set this as met because I think we're doing a good job given how intricate and how this process is and how weighty it is. Again, I'm looking at, I'm satisfied with the way that we've done this. I think there is, again, room for improvement in terms of the student feedback piece, which I know we've made some progress on. And the state was supposed to have been on point with this years ago, and they're being slow too. And oftentimes we do exceed what the state is able to do. Usually, I don't want to say usually, but very oftentimes in better ways than they're able to implement. And so I think that's an area where we could exceed the goal, would be if we were able to get a head start on the state in that aspect. But I do feel, and then the other aspect that I struggle with is in terms of implementing educator evaluations as a superintendent evaluating your administrative team, we have very little knowledge of how that's done, nor should we. That's not our role to evaluate those individuals, nor I think would we want to, because that's so much information. And I think well, we spend enough time evaluating one administrator right here. I don't think we want to get into the business of doing it to anyone anymore. But I was hoping for some evidence of work there, and I know that's an ongoing process, and that something you take very seriously. But I guess those two concerns I had what prevented me from going from met to exceeded, but that doesn't mean that I'm not satisfied, because I am.
I'm just going to read this real quickly. So this goal was student learning goal. Littleton Public Schools will fully implement the new educator evaluation model as per DESE regulations. The process of implementation will be completed in a fashion that fosters educator growth, leading to enhanced teaching capacity, which in turn will lend itself to increased learning opportunities for students. When I put down the exceeded, I thought about the process that Littleton's gone through to implement a new mandate with no funding to get it done, and a significant amount of direction from the state in terms of a framework, but not necessarily a significant amount of direction from the state in how your educator evaluation model is going to lead to enhanced teaching capacity, which in turn will lend itself to increased learning opportunities for students. We've been out in front as a district from day one on this. We have been able to, as an administration, your administration was able to put a framework in place, work it out with the LEA and the teachers, get their buy-in, and it's been a truly cooperative process that I feel, we won't know yet, the proof won't be in the pudding yet, because this is brand new and we're going down the road with it, but I am so confident that we will improve instruction and improve outcomes for students. And if we don't in a particular case, it's only because that's exactly what it's designed to do, which is to catch out an instructor who may need significant intervention to get where he or she needs to be. We've been out in front of this. It's because of your leadership that we have been. In terms of, are there opportunities on particular aspects of how we implement the model that we're still getting our hands around? That's going to be true every year. That will be true every year. And, then in terms of, is it really going to have how much of a positive impact it has? We won't know, but we will know before the vast majority of districts in Massachusetts really do. And one of the things I said in the comments was that what I found is that when we've implemented mandates that have been given to us as a district, we have been able to do it beyond just meeting the requirement so that we can sign off on a document to DESE. Hey, we did that. Can you leave us alone now? We've done it in a manner that we've judiciously thought about what is the best way to do this, that we are going to have a positive impact on student outcomes and/or help our staff. And I think we've been able to take advantage, because the idea of these types of mandates ostensibly is always to help everybody out, right? To do a better job. I mean, as much as we might rail every now and then against, geez, they're really crushing us with these mandates, it's not like they're not doing it without, they're doing it for the right reasons, for sure. Whether or not it's a good idea is certainly up for debate, and there's a lot of debate about that in particular instances. But the goal is there, and I feel like we've done a really good job. I fully believe we have exceeded as a district with Superintendent Clenchey's leadership at the forefront of this particular one, especially when you think about it in a relative basis in terms of this being brand new and how it's going across the Commonwealth. So I feel like this was an easy call in terms of exceeded. Whether or not it will exceed our expectations in terms of the impact, that's going to be left to be determined. But we have no way of knowing that one way or the other. We can't say yes or no on that because, you know, we're still letting the process, this brand new process, unfold. So I think you can see I'm a little more animated than I was in the last one. I think I have a little more vociferous point of view on this.
So Daryl, did you did exceeded on this?
Yes.
And Mike did exceeded,
Yeah.
and Alex did Matt.
Yeah.
And if I use my own scoring, which is to turn this into a 1 through 5, I think I said, especially after our conversations today, and see how we're, you know, looking at this less than just the literal words, then I'd give a 4.5. So I think
That would bleed it out back towards rounding up towards more of an
so-
exceeded
so
type
then,
of
yeah,
score.
so we would have 3 above Matt and 1 Matt. So I would say
Yeah.
exceeded.
Is that okay?
And yeah, I would be comfortable with that. I mean, I believe that we've met the objective, but I also to hear your argument and certainly think Kelly's doing a good job, so I don't object to the committee as a whole marking us exceeded.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And this goal in particular is I'll go back to what Mike was saying, when everything's firing on all cylinders, it seems easy.
Yeah, no one should know about it.
Yeah. But we are so far ahead of I'm going to say 95% of the districts or higher in implementing this particular model. We could have been, like many districts, still in legal deliberation
So the grievances and
and
some
not
of those
even
things
begun
filed.
DDMs. And there are many districts out there that are still in the tall grass trying to work this out. So I'm really proud of the fact that our district, our staffs have thoughtful debates, and we're willing to take a look at the good components of what this process had to offer and counterbalance the reality of all the extra work that's required for the evaluative process. So I really, to me, that speaks volumes of our staff to not get caught up in the fire of being oppositional towards a change that, you know, created a lot of extra work for them. So I feel really good about this goal, and I feel good about our staff, their leadership, and the support of the school committee. It starts right from the school committee down, and that culture isn't fragmented. Culture is simultaneous from the top all the way through. So I guess out of all the things that we've done since we've been together, that one really stands out, along with the interest-based bargaining, because I think that was a real feat to have those conversations that were student-centered and come up with a contract with a lot of deliberation, but positive deliberations. So thank you. I just wanted to say just a couple of things. I really do appreciate your feedback. This is we're 4 years now in Middleton, and when I look back at my experience as a superintendent, I certainly had a great career, and I've worked with a lot of great people. And I realized many years ago that in order for a superintendent to truly be transformational in their leadership, they need to work as a team with the school committee, and they need a school committee that's constantly willing to learn and constantly willing to go to bat for what's right for the district. When money enters any conversation, it's real easy to get lost in the real reason why we exist. I think you've done an exemplary job of balancing our needs with reality, and as we move forward, we're going to have many more conversations in that area. We know we want a lot more, but you know, folks, if you tip the balance too far the other way, it's disastrous, and this district's experienced that. And in fact, I'm still dealing with those effects from 2004, and I would not want this district to ever repeat that cycle ever again, because it takes years and years and years of rebuilding, and you never well, you do get back to where you were, but you have to think of the inefficiencies or impediments that were created for a duration of time. You have to overcome all those before you start moving forward. So I think we've been very cautious of that, and that, you know, that's really important to the success of our district. You know, we need the right amount of money to make it work, but if we don't know what affordability means in Littleton, it doesn't matter what we want. So I'd just like to commend you on your service and your jobs that you've done, and I feel we have a good partnership, and we're all learning together. I mean, even though this is my 15th year as a superintendent, I learn something new every day, and that's what keeps me going. That's what's exciting about it. And this is a great community. I mean, you look at our parents, our kids. I don't talk about the other side of the business deliberately, because you know, there's some very challenging things that we deal with. But I have to tell you, in this community, we have great support from our parents, and our kids are, they come to school and they're excited about learning because we help create that environment, and we're not dealing with some of the issues that I've dealt with on a daily basis in bigger systems. So I'm really proud of what we have, and I'm really proud of the community of Littleton. And you see the building going on, and just really an exciting vibe. And I don't know if some of you know this, but I do have contracting experience as well.
Yeah.
So yes, yeah, I've created a subdivision, and I've built about 85 houses. So,
Wow.
When did you do that?
in my mid-30s,
Summer.
and I was still in education, and it started out as a hobby in the summertime, and then it grew, and I like the fact that we could create something. It was all custom building, so it wasn't just throwing up row housing. But I just love teaching. I love administration too much, so I turned everything over to my wife, and she expanded into which I still, to this day, wondered why she did it, but into gift stores, bookstores, and hotel chains throughout Canada. And, so that was her voyage into private business, so to speak. And she was the same way. I mean, we're truly passionate about education, and we're not happy unless we're doing it. So I see this building, I always get excited.
A real Renaissance man.
Yeah. Or just not afraid to take risks, I guess. So thank you.
Great.
We'll look forward to the upcoming year.
Excellent. Are we done, or we need to take a vote on accepting this?
I think
or-
we need to just vote on the final assessment, and then there's a copy here that you can sign on behalf of the committee.
Okay.
And then I gave everybody their individual ones to sign, so that for the records, he's got signed copies of
Right.
all the individual.
I have my signed copy,
Yeah.
right? Okay, so you guys need to sign yours, give them to me. I'll put them in this packet with the one I'm going to sign on behalf of all this. But before I sign it, we need a vote on it.
And I had a question
Sure.
first. So, Darryl, the only two changes to the summary that you provided is the mark as exceeded for professional practice goals and as met for student learning goals. Oh, no, I'm sorry.
No,
the other
the
way
other way
around.
The other way around. I got it right in the minutes. But looking at it, I got it wrong. And then I had a question on, if you look at page 4 on standard 1D, that is blank.
Oh, yeah, it is blank.
And I wasn't sure if that was, if there was a,
What do we got?
So I think this one goes down to interpreting how we're supposed to fully fill out the form, because we didn't choose all 50
Right.
elements to
Right.
evaluate them on. And I think if you noticed in his Kelly's write-ups, it was things like 2A, 2C, 2E,
Right.
which are really the only ones there. So I think we'd actually technically, I think, on the other ones, I just copied everybody's thing there, and then this one here, I might have just gone more by the literal interpretation there.
Well, I didn't help because I get excited about evaluation. I wrote a commentary anyway.
Yeah,
Do we want to?
Right, you wrote about 10, but there were 9,
yeah.
actually, yeah.
Yeah. So do we want to leave this blank then?
I don't think it was one of the ones that was under our formal
Do we all have the same?
matrix.
Do we all have the same?
I didn't score that one.
Yeah, all right.
Okay.
And there's a couple other that Daryl didn't score because he's using a particular methodology, which is
Yeah.
fine.
We should
Yeah.
probably,
Yeah.
so it's probably the right one that the rest of us forgot
Right.
about.
Yeah.
No.
So probably what I could do next year would be is the ones that we might want to include there's that sheet that's got, you highlight the ones that we're
Right.
going to do, and
Okay.
I can maybe indicate in the form,
Yep.
if I catch it early
I love
enough, there, I could just put a line through the ones that we're not evaluating, just to make it clearer for next year.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Uh,
Fantastic.
I think I sent that, but I know you had 405 or 450 pages or something, so.
We may have gotten
It's
lost.
probably, it
Like
was
4 or
it was
5
in
days
there,
to
the
read.
weeds.
Yeah,
It was a nice
Yeah,
summer
and
weekend
then-
project.
and then I had to go back, I went out to get the Word file versus the PDF, so that, it was a little easier.
Yeah.
Thank you for
Thanks
that. That would have been a true nightmare.
Yeah.
So I make a motion to approve the FY15 superintendent's evaluation.
Second?
Motion is made and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? There were none. All right, very good. As I said at the beginning of the discussion, this is one of the most important things we do. It's kind of the third leg of the stool that we stand on. So I appreciate the amount of effort and time you guys put into that. I thought it was a great discussion. Kelly, I appreciate the time and effort you put into it, because we really can't do a good job without that self-assessment, and you did a terrific job, both in terms of the content, but also in the tone that you took, and that was very helpful
And
to us.
honesty and
Right, exactly.
constructiveness.
But I'd also like to thank you guys too. Like I said, the last 2 meetings we had were marathons. We got a lot of work done in the last couple of meetings. This is the last piece of business we really have to do for the summer. We're gonna take a little break. But, a couple things to keep in mind. We will be on break in terms of the business that we transact until August 20th and possibly August 21st. That's our summer workshop that we have scheduled, which we will do up at the high school, the library seminar room. So just make sure you keep those dates open on your calendar.
When are they? August 20th?
August 20th and the 21st, that Wednesday, Thursday?
Thursday, Friday.
Thursday, Friday. It's typically only one day.
Yeah, usually
Just
just
kind of
one-
keep
one
that second day in place in case we need it. And we'll try to stay to the one. But it will be a longish meeting with sort of a, one thing that we're going to really get our arms around. And it's not just us, we'll be with the admin team too. So that's a little break till then. However, we do have one other thing we have to take care of in a couple of weeks. We need to meet with the Board of Selectmen on Monday, July 13th, to appoint a member to the school committee to take Chuck DeCoste's empty seat. That seat will be filled until next spring, when it will be filled in a regular election. That seat was the one that was up. It's a singleton seat. It's the only seat that'll be up next year. So we need to appoint someone. It's a joint appointment between the 4 of us and the 5 school committee members, Board of Selectmen members. So that's 7 o'clock, Monday, July 13th. Any community members who are interested in sitting on the school committee for a year, you need to submit a letter to the town administrator prior to Friday, July 10th, and any supporting documentation you think would help us evaluate your candidacy needs to go to the town administrator prior to July 10th. And then on Monday, the 13th, we will be meeting with any candidates that expressed interest, and the 9 of us will evaluate, ask questions, interview type process, and then go through a discussion and an appointment, assuming that we get at least one candidate.
Cool.
So make sure that you guys are squared up for that, because that's kind of a big deal, an important thing that we gotta get taken care of, because 5 is better than 4. All right? Anything else?
Do we need an executive session?
Do we need an executive
Yes, we
session
do.
tonight? Okay, we do need an executive session.
Can I make a try for that motion?
Do you know what, for the reason? You gotta know the reason before you try.
I think I do.
Okay, go ahead.
Now I'm nervous. I make a motion that the school committee adjourn from open session into executive session with no intent to open into executive session after, for the purpose of contract negotiation.
Motion is made.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. This is a roll call vote. Alex?
Aye.
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 Aye. All right, thank you, everybody, and
Thanks,
we'll be
Kirby.
back in July. At the selectmen meeting in August for our own meeting.
All right.
Thank you.
Have a great summer.